What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my 2023 Big 12 football post-spring rankings for the 2023 college football season. We begin you every single Power 5 conference post-spring rankings. You can go back and watch my SEC post-spring rankings. I also gave you the ACC a couple days ago, and then yesterday I gave you the Big 10. Now we're on the Big 12 post-spring rankings, and then we'll end things out with the Pac-12 tomorrow. But the Big 12 here is today for the post-spring rankings, and also you can go check out my off-season videos that I've done here throughout January all the way to about April. And now we're here in the first day of May. We're about a week away till we do our official predictions for the upcoming 2023 college football season. But these post-spring rankings, how this video works, we give you the rankings based off of spring practice and, of course, their spring games and how it all went down. Now we're officially on the Big 12. So let's get right into it here with my Big 12 conference post-spring rankings for the college football season. We'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top, from the worst team to the top team in the Big 12 maybe for next year. We'll start with number 14. That's going to be Iowa State. Iowa State, I don't think is a bad team. I don't think they're going to be really, be able to predict. I don't really think they're going to be able to finish last in the Big 12. I think this is a team that will be a lot better than they were last year. Maybe not like a bowl team, but last year they didn't make it to a bowl game. They had a pretty young team last year, and this is an Iowa State team that I think will be, like I said, a lot better in 2023. And like I said, they were really young last year. I don't think they'll be a bad team, but as of right now, I got to put them here at number 14 in these post-spring Big 12 rankings. They're number 14 here on this list. Number 13 is West Virginia. This is a team that I kind of project to finish last in the Big 12, but as of right now, they're projected, maybe to finish 13th in the Big 12 this year. And I think their head coach is definitely on the hot seat. This is a team that's definitely been an up and down program down the last few years. Of course, their head coach maybe be on the hot seat this upcoming season. They went 5-7 last year, so it's really not like a bad season, but I don't think West Virginia has what it takes to compete with the Big 12 this season. They have a pretty tough schedule as well. They have to go on the road to play Penn State in the non-conference, and that will be a tough game to start out the year for this West Virginia team. They're number 13 here in my post-spring Big 12 post-spring rankings. Number 12 is one of the newcomers, and that's BYU. BYU, I kind of expect to compete in the Big 12 this year. And this is a program that's, gotten a lot better as a program, and also now heading into officially as a Power 5 conference, school. I think BYU definitely will be competitive in their first year in the Big 12. But the question is, how many games will they win in the Big 12 this year? I mean, that's going to be the question on everybody's mind, for all the newcomers in the Big 12, with the 4 newcomers in the Big 12 perhaps. We never know how many games they will win in their first year in the Big 12, maybe not a lot, and then next year they could probably start to winning, more games. And, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, so it's going to be, 12 teams in the Big 12 next year when Texas and Oklahoma leave, if something happens there for next year. But I think BYU definitely will compete in the Big 12 this upcoming season. They're number 12 here in these post-spring rankings. Number 11 is UCF, another newcomer in the Big 12. This team has been really good in the last couple years under Gus Malzahn as the head coach. He's now heading to officially, once again, a Power 5 team. And, UCF used to be a really high-powered offense, and they're still kind of that high-powered offensive tempo team. I think this is still one of the top teams, maybe coming in, maybe one of the top newcomers in the Big 12 heading into next year, but maybe perhaps, it's some other team. But they're number 11 here on this list. And like the same thing with BYU and some of these newcomers, it's going to be how many games they can win in their first year in the Big 12. Now, I think all the newcomers can make it to a bowl game perhaps and maybe finish 6-6 perhaps. BYU, I projected them to go 5-7, but UCF, I projected them to go 6-6. I think this will be a team that definitely, maybe can win 6 or 7 games perhaps, but once we get into those predictions, we'll find out which their overall record will be in the next week coming. Next Sunday is when we start them, May the 14th. So UCF here at number 11. Number 10 is Houston, another newcomer. So we got 3 straight newcomers here from 10 through 12. Houston here at number 10. I think this will be a talented team this year. I think, they'll compete. Like I said, I think all these newcomers will compete in the Big 12, but they're kind of similar, to all the newcomers. How many games will Houston win in their first year in the Big 12? And like I said, I think I could see all these newcomers making it to a bowl game perhaps in 2023. And Houston is one of those guys, or actually those teams that can really make it to a bowl game. They do have the talent. I mean, last year's season was not really good for Houston, but I think they'll be better this upcoming season. This is a team that started out in the top 25 last year, and they were picked as the favorites to win the American Athletic Conference. Of course, that didn't happen, though, for Houston, but I think this will definitely be a team that can definitely compete in the Big 12. It creates new rivals as well in the Big 12 for this team, so they're number 10 here in my post-spring rankings. Number 9 is Texas Tech. I think this will be a decent team this year, and they'll be really competitive in the Big 12 like they were last year. Last year, I was really high on this Texas Tech team, and once again this year, I'm really hyped up for this team. I think this team can maybe win 7 or 8 games in the Big 12 this year, and maybe perhaps get more wins in the Big 12 this upcoming season than last year. Texas Tech obviously is going to be a decent team. I have them ranked in the post-spring top 25 if you go back and watch that video. I also had them ranked in my pre-spring top 25 and also maybe my early top 25, way too early top 25. You can go back and watch those top 25 videos of where this Texas Tech team is. And if you look at my previous videos with the Big 12, I do have Texas Tech pretty much high on, every list. So Texas Tech here is a team that I think is going to be really decent this year in the Big 12. They're number 9 here in my post-spring rankings here for the Big 12. Number 8 is going to be Baylor. Baylor, a team that, had a pretty step-back year last year in 2022 after, winning the Big 12 championship in 2021. I think this will be a good Baylor team this upcoming season. The question is, how talented will they be against the Big 12 this upcoming season? Baylor, obviously, a lot of the people predicted Baylor to go to the college football playoff last year, which I didn't think was really possible for them. And I kind of knew this Baylor team would take a step back from a year ago. I think this year they'll be a lot better, maybe a 7, 8, 9 win team perhaps. But I think, the best case scenario for them would probably be 6 or 7 wins perhaps for Baylor. I mean, they were kind of young last year as well, and I think that's kind of similar to this year as well. But I think, this upcoming season, I think they'll be better than they were in 2023, and they'll be competitive as well for 2023. They're number 8 here on this list. Number 7 is Kansas. Kansas coming in here at number 7, a team with a lot of production coming back this upcoming season. This is a team that really shocked us all last year, going 6-7 overall, 6-6 in the conference. And remember that start they had? They had that undefeated start in the regular season until they kind of started to fall apart, and the Big 12 schedule kind of got tougher. The question is, was Kansas just really that good last year? Well, was that just a fluke? Will this year really be a bad year for this Jayhawks team? I really don't think so because of all the production they have coming back, and I think they'll be well motivated to win at least, some games in the Big 12, and they'll obviously compete in that Big 12 conference anyway, so Kansas here at number 7 here on this post-spring rankings. Number 6 is Cincinnati, a newcomer here in the Big 12. I kind of expect Cincinnati to be the top newcomer in the Big 12 heading into next year out of all those 3 teams, like besides Houston, UCF, and of course BYU. But I think Cincinnati is going to be the top team in the newcomer list for the Big 12 next year because this program has headed to the college football playoff in 2021, and that's why I'm giving them so much credit for what they did a couple years ago. But also, I know last year was a really tough season for Cincinnati, but I think this team is going to be good this year, but the question is how good will they be in the Big 12? And also, they're going to have a new coaching staff. Of course, Scott Satterfield coming from Louisville is a huge difference instead of Luke Fickell. I think if Luke Fickell stayed in, Cincinnati, I think, I would put Cincinnati in the top 3 for, coming into the Big 12 next year. But like I said, with all these newcomers, I think they can definitely make it to a bowl game perhaps in 2023, and Cincinnati is definitely in that conversation to make it to a bowl game next year. Number 5 is Oklahoma State, a team that made it to the Big 12 championship a couple years ago against Baylor as well in 2021. This team lost a lot of, production from last year, and, also 2022, they went 7-6 overall, so it was a pretty bad season for Oklahoma State. It wasn't the best season, but this team does lose a lot of production this year, and also they lose a ton of guys in the transfer portal, but I think they're still going to be talented enough, to where they, will compete in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is obviously going to be a wide-open conference, so you kind of expect Oklahoma State to be in that conversation for a Big 12 championship appearance, perhaps. But again, Oklahoma State's going to be a little bit young this year, and like I said, they did lose a lot of people in the transfer portal. They also lost their starting quarterback from last year. That's going to be a really big-time loss there for this Cowboys team. Oklahoma State, though, here at number 5. Like I said, they're going to probably still have the talent to compete with the Big 12, and the Big 12 is obviously a crazy conference to predict every single year, and they're number 5 here on this post-spring rankings. Number 4 is TCU. This is a team that I did not expect to make it to the college football playoff last year. I was definitely high on them. I had them go into a bowl game at least last year, but I did not expect them, to go all the way to the college football playoff, national championship. They lost the Big 12 championship, though, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, what TCU did from last year, they were definitely a team. But this year, it's about this year. I mean, TCU is going to take a step back here this upcoming season. Of course, Max Duggan is gone, and you got other guys gone, perhaps in the NFL draft. And I saw Quentin Johnson get drafted in the first round, so that's a huge pick there for TCU. And, we saw some, receivers go in the first round. I mean, we saw a lot of, defensive players go in the first round and offensive tackles go in the first round, but Quentin Johnson got drafted in the first round as the wide receiver for TCU. But TCU, this will be a step-back team this year. We don't know how good they're going to be after a college football playoff appearance last year. We'll just see what happens for this TCU team. Maybe they can perhaps still make the Big 12 championship and possibly still be that top contender perhaps, but they're number 4 here on the post-spring post-spring Big 12 rankings. Number 3 is going to be Texas. Texas spring game. Let's talk about that for a second. Quinn Ewers is definitely the starting quarterback after that spring game. And like I said, he looked pretty good in that spring game. And, Quinn Ewers is already getting a lot of hype. He should be a top 10 quarterback perhaps. He's not in my top 10 quarterback list, but I think, if I was going to make a switch for the top 10 quarterback list, I would definitely put Quinn Ewers in there for 2023. But let's be honest, there's a lot of other great quarterbacks out there besides Quinn Ewers. You got some guys in the Pac-12. You got some guys also in the Big 12 that could be up there in that conversation. And you got a lot of guys in the SEC as well. So, but Texas, talking about their spring game, they look pretty good on both sides of the ball. Quinn Ewers, like I said, looked pretty good. Arch Manning looked pretty good as well, pretty decent. But also their third-string quarterback looked pretty good. So Texas's quarterback competition is going to be pretty wide open, but they already said that Quinn Ewers is going to be the starting quarterback for heading into 2023. But Texas here at number 3, I think they're definitely a Big 12 championship, contender and perhaps a playoff contender in 2023. Number 2 is Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I kind of expect to be a lot better than they were last year. Dylan Gabriel's coming back at quarterback, so that's the huge difference there for this Oklahoma team. A team that's coming off a 6-7 season last year, and I kind of, think people are kind of sleeping on this Oklahoma team just a little bit. I think the offense is going to be really good enough to where they can score points. I think the defense will be pretty solid. I am concerned about that defensive side of the ball for Oklahoma, but I think offensively they'll be really explosive perhaps, but not like a top 10 offense in the country, maybe a top 30 perhaps. But Oklahoma is definitely a playoff contender perhaps in 2023, and also I think they're definitely, in that conversation for the Big 12 championship. And like I said, Dylan Gabriel coming back at quarterback is huge for them, and that's why they ended up here at number 2 on my post-spring rankings. And I also, ranked them in my post-spring top 25. You can go back and watch that video. I put them here in that, top 25 post-spring rankings. But they're number 2 here in my post-spring rankings. Number 1, though, is going to be Kansas State. Kansas State, I think, is at the top of the Big 12 right now. This is a team that won it all last year in the Big 12 championship game. And I think this team is definitely at the top of the, Big 12 right now. I think, it's just really hard to tell who's going to be at that top of the Big 12 this year because it's going to be a wide open conference. I think, where Kansas State was last year, I think they're definitely at that, top tier. And obviously they're one of those top tier teams to make the Big 12 championship once again in 2023. And plus they have, good quarterback play coming back from a year ago. They do have Will Howard coming back who took over as the starter from last year. He's definitely probably one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12 heading into next year. Maybe besides Quinn Ewers and obviously, some other quarterbacks in the Big 12 that could really shine. I think Kansas State definitely deserves to be the number 1 team right now in my post-spring rankings for the Big 12. And those are my post-spring rankings for the Big 12 Conference. So let me guys know what you think about these rankings. Who do you think should be higher? on these rankings? Who do you think should be a little bit lower on these rankings as well? And also, we'll continue to do more of these post-spring rankings. We'll do the Pac-12 tomorrow. We'll end things out with the Power 5. And don't forget, our college football predictions start next Sunday, May the 14th. That's when they start there on that Sunday, May the 14th. So stay tuned for those predictions. And also stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.